all my birthday money up until I was like 12, my mom had put in a bank account. So it had finally gained enough interest to barely be able to buy a keyboard. So I was the same way. You know, I bought my keyboard. I had my little speakers. I used to take over Rob's living room, try to turn it into a studio.
Yeah, we call that
I've been through it all.
We call it the studio fund.
There you go. So, yeah, I definitely know the clearance and Craigslist. I know that approach.
That's dope. Well, growing up, you know, obviously you were geared towards hip-hop through skateboarding and through videos and you know, the whole MTV generation when hip-hop really started making some noise on MTV2 and you know, stations that you're now syndicated on with your own show. So tell us some of your influences growing up, and then I want to know who you're banging in the ride right now.
Influences growing up musically, to be honest, once again, not going to lie, I've always been kind of a top 40 sort of guy. Now, even like in my hip hop, I mean, I used to have cornrows, and to be honest, that's where the name Drama came from. I thought I wanted to be a rapper for a while. I don't know. You get real turned around living in Ohio for too long. But I was real hip hop.
Ice cold winters.
So it is. I mean, I think it might have froze part of my brain, but I had cornrows, Timberlands. I mean, it was a little out of control. But even in those days, I've always been kind of a top 40 sort of guy. So back then, I used to drive around to, you know, the old original T.I. album and Young Jeezy when he was just doing mixtapes and Boys in the Hood, and I really thought I was kind of the Young Jeezy of Akron. So it's always been pretty top 40-ish.
What about the great Hova, Jay-Z?
Of course. I mean, obviously he's always a staple.
Not sliding him into the top 40, but you know, he's one artist that looked beyond keeping it gangster, and he realized that you know, the cash is heavy rotation. So he definitely got plenty of
and that's actually one thing I
play.
respect about him is he's never really, I'm not going to quote the actual statistics because I don't know them exactly, but you know, he's only maybe had one number one or something along those lines. He's never really been a number one single sort of dude, but obviously he's still
selling
Jay-Z,
records,
you know, which is definitely something that I respect.
Well, and it just shows you how people look at his, you know, not to go on a whole Jay-Z tangent, but I just look at his albums, each and every album, as almost like buying a book. And so now, you know, kids read books on Kindle. They have his albums on their iPods now, so it's almost like a story in their ears. And in my ears growing up, you know, I'm 35 now, so you know, I'm kind of in that wheelhouse of I felt some of the struggle and some of the lyrics and other, you know, obviously living that New York lifestyle. It's something you dream about growing up in Texas, wearing bubble downs and big Timberlands. But you know, so I don't think he ever had a top single, but every one of his albums, you know, has been a top seller. So it just shows you how you don't have to be. Some artists are single pushers. I mean, that's all they do is put out singles and put out records.
Especially nowadays, it's horrible. The whole business is single driven. There's people that have singles and you never hear from them again.
99 cents a hit. it's almost like the drum game.
Absolutely crazy. And the other thing that I really respect about him, to be honest, is the fact that he's such a businessman also. I mean, the man is just insane. And the fact that he's able to be such a gnarly artist and then at the same time be such a crazy businessman and be making the money that he's making, it's absurd. I mean, there's a lot of artists that are great artists but can't even remember to tie their shoes in the morning without an assistant or two telling them, you know? So the fact that he's able to be that insane of an artist as well as a businessman is inspirational, to say the least.
You can relate on that on many levels, I'm sure. And his wife, who is from Houston, is not too bad either.
Yeah, you know, he did okay on that.
I think so. I think they'll have some pretty babies.
That's what I'm saying. Let's go back to being humble.
Yeah, exactly.
The moment you want to get cocky, look at that man.
That's true. That's very true. All right, so you guys transitioned into the factory, and now your bro Scott, a.k.a. Big Cat, as everybody knows him, he's part of the fun, and he's, you know, I get the feeling, and I'm sure it's different in real life, but he's catching some of the heat and some of the pain that you felt kind of coming into your own on TV on Rob and Big. And tell us about that.
Well, first I want to say that it feels great because I love the bullying attention being turned off of me, if you will. So that feels great. but yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what it is. I mean, for the longest time, he just wasn't really, in the mix and wasn't, on Robin Big and that stuff. He lived in Ohio for a little bit and then came back out and whatever. So finally on Fantasy Factory, he was around and he started working with us and all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of one of those pay your dues sort of vibes. And thank God it's off of me and onto him.
That's cool. So, I mean, you guys get along, though. You guys are like bros?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
It's just always fun in those situations. I mean, you got to have that one to pick on, and for me, like, it was me for the longest time, and, now he just switches attention a little bit.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So, all right, you got to tell us. We had the Young and Reckless edition of Sports Rap Live. Everybody out there, one of my favorite episodes of all time was the Live the Brand episode where Rob literally pushed you to jump out of a building. And your mom and Rob's mom and my own mom and everybody's mom tells them, so if so-and-so jumps out of a building, are you going to jump too?
Oh, yeah.
And there you are, living the brand. So tell us, the background behind Young and Reckless, because, the designs are hot. The caps, the snapbacks are gray, and that's all I got to say, because there's not too many caps out there that I've seen where I can rock it with some nice gray pants, some gray Chucks, whatever. Yeah. So tell us about the brand.
What it is really, once again, I don't want to go into too long of a rant here, but what it is really is, growing up in Ohio, moved to LA, and I really saw and started to, be interested in, like the whole streetwear sort of vibe. Now, that's something that I never came across living in Ohio because it doesn't exist there. So out here, every major city pretty much, there's the whole streetwear. There's Diamond, Crooks and Castles, all these brands. And really what's so cool about it to me is there are these brands that are really focused in on their brand and their lifestyle. And it really just, it seems like they care more. They focus more on what they're doing as opposed to these bigger companies, like Quicksilver or Billabong or Zoo York or whatever. They focus a little bit more. So it was something that I really got interested in. I really liked it, and then I've always had dreams of doing my own clothing line. So when finally, I felt like the time was right and everything kind of came together, I decided that I wanted to start a brand that had that same sort of vibe, a lifestyle, a focus, but make it available, to the mainstream so that a kid in Ohio or a kid in Nebraska or wherever can see, our website, our blog, or Kevin Durant wearing our stuff, or 50 Cent wearing whatever, and then go get it at their local store as opposed to just always wonder where it came from.
Shit, Sports Rap Live rocks it. What are you talking about?
Well, there you go. What other reason do these kids need?
That's right. It's like your little Tilly's tour coming up here, the grilled cheese tour. Is that inspired by the Cheese Ballers episode?
Absolutely. I mean, not only me personally, but everybody, I believe, in our group is such big fans of the grilled cheese sandwich. And we got such a great response from that episode, so we figured, hey, I mean, out here, there's already a pre-existing grilled cheese truck that drives around. So we just decided, why don't we, it makes perfect sense to team up with them and do a grilled cheese tour.
That's dope. I love the flyer, too. And Chanel, who you guys know, all our sports rap fans out there know, is going to be joining us this weekend for her first trip to Texas. Drama, she's in for it, man.
I'm scared for her. I'm going to be honest. After these recent, jail stints and Twitter rampages.
Wow. I wasn't going to bring it up. I wasn't going to bring up Free CC because, I heard there's some shirts going around. Chanel is my homegirl shirts. They're so 2009. Now it's Free CC shirts.
Yes.
Well,
I mean, she likes to do her own thing, I guess, and doesn't mind spending a couple hours in jail for it.
I guess not. Well, tell us a funny story, something we can tease her about when she comes in this weekend, something that happened around the factory that you can share with us. Nothing too juicy. I don't want to put her on blast, but something that we can kind of rib her about when she comes in this weekend.
You know what I would say is, to be honest, I mean, really behind the scenes, she's actually pretty mellow. She doesn't have too many dirty little secrets. But I would say your best bet is either, if not the whole Free CC campaign, and not only going to jail, but twittering about it instead of just keeping it to yourself. But also maybe ask her about her iPhones. I know that a very common problem every time she would come to the factory or come into work is she would always either have just broken or just lost her iPhone.
Excellent.
So I think she goes through more iPhones than Steve Jobs himself. But somehow, whenever she's partying or doing these appearances or whatever, somehow the first thing to go is always that poor little iPhone.
And then you see the tweets drop off for like 24 hours until she can get her hands on the next one.
Yeah, and then she comes back with a campaign like, oh my God, you won't believe it. I just spent like 3 nights in jail, got my iPhone. I think she actually just made a Twitter dedicated to her iPhone. So maybe if you got her like an iPhone case or some sort of like locking device, I don't know, but...
No, we're gonna have the Free CC app on her iPhone. How's that?
It's like a tracking device. That's good. I like that.
Oh yeah, man. All right. Well, hey, we got to tell all the good people out there listening. Thanks for hanging on to the line with us, Drama. First and foremost, man, you were great.
Absolutely.
I think your insight is what makes you you. I think most of the kids out there, like you said, whether they're in the Midwest, West Coast, East Coast, Canada, worldwide, they relate to you. You know what I mean? Because you're not stunting.
I hope so.
We all love Rob. Some of us have known Rob for years, even back in demos, Alien Workshop demos in San Diego and the skate jam here years and years ago. But he's a character as it is, but I think the fact that you've always stayed humble and you kind of went through your hazing phase on Rob and Big, and I think a lot of people, I don't want to say sympathy, but a lot of people could relate with you as the little brother or the little guy trying to get in the crew. And I know you were in the crew from the beginning, but, as it appears on TV, a lot of kids are like, wow, I can relate with you.
No, of course. Of course. No, and that's what I want, too. I mean, long story short, I do want, one of my big things is pushing, kind of the vibe or the message that, you can do it, too. Or you watched me go through it. You saw, like, no matter what is how it comes off on TV, how not, whatever. Long story short, you saw me go from Chicago, Ohio to where I am now. I still have a long way to go, but I want to spread the message of, hey, I'm just a normal hillbilly kid from Ohio. You can do it too.
That's what's up, man. And the advice continues.